lined up for you. I'm your host, Kim Jacobs, better known as the Balance Doctor. And all of our guests that come on, they're either people that have overcome some tremendous odds in their own lives as they balance this thing called life, or they're experts and they're here to share tips and strategies that will help you better balance and manage your life. Grab your virtual seats and let's get ready for some real, relevant, and relatable content on today's episode of The Kim Jacobs Show. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of The Kim Jacobs Show. I am so excited because we bring balance to the world one household at a time. And today we're doing that with our Freestyle Friday expert, none other than Sharon D. Brown. How are you, Sharon?
I'm doing well on this Friday.
I'm glad to have you. I feel so much better when I'm around you. So I'm like, I don't know, we're right here in Charlotte. I probably could hang out with you only if you allow a little bit more, because it's fun being around you, and I just feel extremely blessed when I experience you and I'm in your presence.
Thank you very much, and I definitely feel the same about you too, Kim.
Well, everyone, listen. Grab your virtual seats. Let us know where you're visiting in from on this Freestyle Friday, and even some of the topics that you'd like to talk about. Now, we may not know all of the answers to the topics, but guess what? We have our phones, we can Google, and we can figure it out and just have some discussion surrounding some of these topics that really do matter to you. Okay? So let us know where you are and any questions that you have or areas that you'd like us to focus on today. I know one thing I'll start off with, and I saw this on an article, and I put it on Facebook a few minutes ago, but there was an article. There's so many different challenges that are out here, Sharon, when it comes to encouraging young people to do things that are way out of the box. So let's see what you're made of, and let's see if we can dare you to do this,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's so much. And I was reading this article, and it's about a 14-year-old passing away due to a heart attack after participating in a spicy tortilla chip challenge.
Oh, wow.
And the tortilla chip is like this black chip. It's a tortilla chip. It's a single spicy chip. And literally, people are being told, hey, just see if you can tolerate it. But then the problem is when people take this, I'm gonna just make it real personal, forget people, okay? Literally, Jeremiah, my son, did this. He did this challenge, and I didn't even know it was going down. So I'm in another room in the house, and all of a sudden, everybody's running. Jeremiah's having a problem. He's having a problem. I'm like, what? What's going on? I mean, when you've got a child pass away, you definitely don't need that level of a scare or anything. Anybody relate to what I'm saying, please put it in the comment section. When I went in the kitchen, Sharon, and witnessed him, he was inflamed, flared up, pouring down with sweat. His heart was palpitating. He was he was overwhelmed.
Wow.
And I couldn't do, it was like I was helpless. I could not do anything except for I just literally started praying for him. I said, there's no need to start trying to chastise him at that point, because what's done is done. It's in your system, and it has to work its way out.
Yeah.
He was like, milk. So somebody ran and got a jug of milk, and they were drinking the milk, and then they were doing it, all of this stuff. Ultimately, he's still here on this earth,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But I just want to know, what are y'all thoughts about these challenges? And it's not even just about a chip, but other challenges, driving down the street and getting out and dancing right quick while the car is moving. I've seen challenges like that on different social media platforms. I'm like, who wants to do that while the car is still moving and you're getting out the car and you're trying to show you what you're made of? What are your thoughts, Sharon? Talk to me.
Yeah, kind of one of those things. I just say I'm in a stage in my life where I do encourage people and even myself to challenge However, it's almost like, you hear me talk about being intentional, but there needs to be a purpose for it. And when we're talking about self-care, it's like, how is this going to help me? But also by being intentional is looking at some of the not only the benefits of it, but the other part of that where it can be a consequence as well, and just know that that is real. So that's one of the things that I would encourage people to do, because even though some people do it, oh, it's especially like the ones that you just described, a lot of times people do it more so for fun
Right.
other than for growth. So that would be the key. If this is, I would say, if this is for fun, it needs to be in a structured environment.
Right. Not where somebody can literally die as a possible outcome. And I also want to make you aware that, and I think I told you already backstage, but my battery charger, I left it at home and I'm not at home. And so if for some reason I pop off the screen, everybody, just keep things going and I will come back on through my phone. I just like to be on my computer. But as you balance life, if you forget your charger, then you're not going to be able to keep it going on the computer. But yeah, the chief medical examiner's office, this is an article on CNN in Massachusetts, determined that a teenager who ate a tortilla chip containing a high concentration of a chemical compound found in chili peppers died of a heart attack last September. And so this whole article is just saying the importance of this one chip challenge when the child ingested it is something that is caused death in this instance. But children don't think about these things whenever they're just doing a simple, hey, I dare you. They don't think about
Yeah. And the thing is too, it can even be where it don't even have to be a chip. And by you saying chili, it reminds me of an experience that I had, and I wasn't even eating. So even in being, it was where my nephew was staying with me, and
it.
he loves like hot food, and he was cooking something with some chili in it, and this thing was hot. And it was so hard. You know how I can't remember what meat he was cooking, but he was cooking something. But the steam of it was so much that the smoke alarm went off. I was in my office. I started coughing.
And then this is just from you being in the environment.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh. Oh, so has anybody else in the audience, have you experienced anything like this? I know if I eat something really spicy and it gets down in my throat, it gives you a tickle and you're
Mhm.
coughing and gagging. It's like, I gotta get this out of my system. And that's just from a pepper or something. Like one time I tasted one of the peppers that a jailer grew in her garden. I was like, hey, we need to get a different batch of peppers because I do not want anything that spicy getting in
Yeah.
the system, you know? But yeah, I just think that as parents on my end here, it's so important to encourage our children to make wise decisions when we're talking about things that we're putting in our body. And once it gets inside our body, we can't get it out until it works its course. So
Mhm.
I just thought that that would be a topic we could talk about for a few minutes to say, what are you doing to encourage your children to be mindful of the things that they're putting into their bodies that could cause, just because of a challenge or whatever, that could cause them to be permanently altered in some way, whether it's paralyzed, whether it's passed away, or whatever the case may be, that could be prevented just by you not doing that, making a
Mhm.
better choice, you know?
Most definitely. And just by us talking about this, because when I think of self-care, I think of it at a deeper level in so many other ways than I feel like most people do. So another part of it, again, is part of yourself. So with that, you have the sense of peer pressure and competition. So it's like to overcome peer pressure is for you to be, confident in yourself and not feel like that you have to join the crowd. And then when it comes to competition, it also goes back to what I said before about being intentional of why you're doing something. Is this going to be for my growth? Or, it's kind of like, why are you doing it? Because there are some things that you just don't need to participate in.
Period. That's it. And it's okay because we're not all created to fit in into some special box anyway. So whatever you believe that God has kind of called you out of
Mhm.
or set you aside and apart from, it can be for a very beautiful reason. That's for your benefit later. It may not look like it for the moment, but it's something that is about that makes you special, you know?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
okay, so now this takes me to a whole different topic, and we're both single, so you and I could probably relate to this 21st century, and I'm sure my battery will go low on some time I start talking about it. This 21st century dating, it's a trip. First of all, I'm way, 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 way old school because I was married for 28 years with the man for 34. So I was 18 years old when that whole
Mhm.
situation started. To hear and to see what dating consists of nowadays, oh, I think I might need counseling about it.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
what? What are you talking about? Absolutely not. Under no cir are you cray? No, I'm not interested in that. But I mean, I may be way off. So please put your thoughts out here, y'all. What are your thoughts about that? Uh,
Well, the main thing I can say is the more we do our own work, then it will help us to be able to be confident in ourselves and to know when someone is not in alignment what God has for us. And when I say that, meaning that because part of us in being human, especially being female, because we're always so nice, we have this thing about this niceness. But I have learned niceness can get you, when I say killed, I just say emotionally killed. You know what I'm saying?
you know,
Hopefully it won't get you, physically killed, but hopefully those red flags, pop up really fast. But in saying that it can be the smallest thing about someone and vice versa. It could be a
mhm,
small thing about us, that someone say, oh no, you know what I'm saying? And that's okay because someone could be like a good representative. You know what I mean by that?
right.
But there can just be something about that person that just doesn't click. And
Mhm,
so that's okay.
mm,
That is okay. And that's where our self-care comes into play, where we can be okay with that and not think that we're being so picky or something. Because again, when you're talking about your soul and your spirit,
right.
all of that is going to come, it really shows up and it really is repel
Mhm,
people because what I've learned is, oh, that's what I was fighting against. I was fighting against what was not in alignment with myself. And again, it could be a small thing
mhm.
and it's okay.
That's right. Natasha Halliday's back there. I'm gonna pull you in, okay, Natasha? All right. Yeah, yeah, we're having some hearty discussion, Natasha, about being
Hey,
single. Hey, how are you?
not
Hi.
bad, thanks. How are you?
Doing great. I already told Sharon that if for some reason my battery dies, I didn't bring my charger with me, so I'll have to go to my phone and then come back on. So y'all keep it going if that's the case. But we just talked about this one chip challenge and how there was death associated with that for a 14-year-old. It was on an article on CNN, and I was telling them,
I saw that yesterday.
what are your thoughts about that, right quick, before because we talked about dating. So
Well, I think what's disturbing, one, why people selling chips that could kill people. Now, I'm assuming that part of it is how the volume that was consumed.
mhm,
But I think what it also points to is we have to encourage, especially from a young age, independent thinking
mhm,
and not just following the crowd because we can actually get ourselves killed by doing just what people say to do. We don't know where they got it from. We don't know what logic they have behind it, what research. If, like, it's just, it doesn't make sense. The whole way that social media has all these challenges now, it's disturbing
that's right.
because everybody's just hopping on the bandwagon. And I think what it does is it makes you feel included, but you continue to sacrifice your ability to think independently. And
Perfect.
what I think young people need to be encouraged to do is say, okay, what's that about? What do I think about it? Does that line up with who I am? Which means they have to be thinking about who they are,
That's right.
and then make choices out of that.
Very
Not
well
just do it
said.
because that's the trend.
Yeah. There you have it. So then now you chimed in on the one chip challenge, but then now we transitioned to this whole dating world, right? And I was saying that I am not from this world. I don't know what to say. I'm just not
Oh,
of
be
this
grateful,
world.
girl. Be grateful.
But not because
It's
I'm better or anything. It's just that I could never have imagined that this dating scene out here right now in these streets is definitely more of the online dating. It sounds like the women being a little bit more aggressive, assertive, and gosh, it's overwhelming to
well,
me.
the
So,
the whole idea about the swipe left, swipe right, and that kind of thing. It I know you have to vet because you want some level of attraction, but I
right.
think it takes it superficiality a step further.
I, I think, and you know what? And I'm not, and please, now I say this, and then all what if one day I end up being on a dating thing, and but I, I'm not saying that it's anything wrong with a dating site because there are some people that have got married and they are loving each other and having the best time of their lives, and they met through these online dating apps. So
Mhm.
tell me, you guys in the studio audience too, are you for the online dating apps? Are you against it? How do you think people should be dating in these streets in the 21st century? Because Sharon, thoughts?
I would just say when it comes to the dating apps, and I'm not including that specifically because what I have found is that whether you use a dating app, whether you're introduced through someone or you're meeting someone yourself, you still would never know.
Yeah.
you know? And so, in all ways, it's still about taking care of yourself. And just like I said before, do the self work so that you can be confident in yourself and, in alignment what God has for you. And to be able,
Okay, that's some
again, even if
steps.
it's the smallest thing that is not in alignment, because I think that's where a lot of times people struggle because we may attach or like something about the person, but they can still be something. Now, for some individuals, it can grow, you know what I'm saying? But it depends on what their work is and who they are in their vision as well. And so it really kind of depends on what it is. So again, when it comes to those three things, especially the way that the online dating thing is now as compared to 15, 20 years ago. I mean, it's so much more. But then
Right.
also what I want to say is that because Kim, you had mentioned something about counseling. But one thing that I would even encourage people to do, because there are individuals who specialize like in dating, like
Right.
with Dr. Tart and his wife, Mecca. They do marriage retreats, but they also do some dating things. I know they have something coming up as well. So I would encourage people that because I'm kind of like you, me in these streets by myself. I don't
I think it is way too
know.
advanced.
so,
I feel like a whole child, like I'm in high school or something.
so
I'm like, this is a lot to process. And the things that I thought, back in the day, which were a man should ask you out, a man should take the initial steps to make sure that, hey, this is what I'm interested in doing. But what I hear now is more so like, yeah, I would like to possibly take you out. I'm just using a scenario. Take you out, but I also would like to possibly take other people out too. It's like, what? I don't need no pageant. I'm just trying to be in some kind of, okay, next to number 1 and number 22 and number 33. And that's like, wait, what? The devil is a liar. I believe wholeheartedly that he who finds a wife finds a good thing. But how do you find that wife if you don't take the time to exclusively get to know that individual?
See, you know what I find interesting, and this has come up more for me as I've done work as a therapist, is when I hear people tell their stories about problems in relationships, there is an element of we seek relationships. We don't seek people who are a good fit for us. So we want relationship. We want somebody who looks good on our arm, right? And we start there. And then what I'm finding now, there's a lot of intensity. I'm hearing a lot of, it's texting every day. It's contact every day from jump. And so they're flooded with this attention and then thinking this is good, but you don't know nothing about them. You haven't learned nothing about them. So I'm like, how about we approach it from the perspective of, I'm trying to be in a relationship with somebody who's a good fit for me. And so remembering, it's not that you want to be judgmental, but remembering to pay attention to, does this person possess some of the stuff that I'm looking for? And I heard the best thing ever. So Andy Stanley, Charles Stanley's son, in a sermon said, are you the person that you're looking for is looking for? And I love that so much because we've learned to go, I want him tall, dark, and handsome, and make this amount of money and drive this car and own 5 properties.
Right.
But what you doing with yourself? If you ratchet, why are you trying to step to this man saying you should want me? And no, like, are you paying attention to, do you have something that somebody would see of value?
I agree with that.
I now walk through life when I meet men and they don't choose to be with me, I'm like, oh, that poor thing doesn't know what he's missing. I might be a little thick around the waist, but I'm like, I'm smart. I love God. I'm ambitious. I'm hardworking. I know my worth. Ain't nobody got to tell me nothing.
Right. I don't need anybody else to validate my work.
Externalize and just look at what's happening on the outside. No, I'm working on me all the time. So I don't doubt that I'm a good catch.
Oh yeah.
If somebody misses it, to me, that might tell me they might need to do more work.
Exactly.
Way to go, glasses over there. Way to just contribute. I agree with everything that you said. Like, that's a nail on the knocking it right on the head. That's beautiful.
Yeah, most definitely. And you also brought up a good point too, because you were talking about, like, when someone says, oh, they're calling me and they're texting me all the time. And what that reminded me of is that sometimes we don't even realize it. And again, because it could be something unconscious, that they get attached to that, which it may be an unmet need, that they may have, in that sense that, may not have gotten enough hugs or enough hellos from their parents, or, because innocently, when parents essentially work more than one job, it can be an unintentional, abandonment, but there are some attachment issues that come to that. And that's why I tell people it's just so important for all of us to really do our work. There are times in which we may need to go to therapy, be in some type of groups or circles where we're specifically talking about that. Then I would even go on to say, like, especially like for some of us who grew up without fathers, because I was one of those persons, pretty much just feel like I was okay, because I am ambitious and was able to accomplish things, and it didn't feel like that it made a difference. But what I found out later in life is that little girl in me who was stuck, and it's like, you end up having, friendships or a relationship literally pulling, your dad by the coattail and don't even know it, but until you go deeper. And so the other thing too, I want to point out, because just by me saying that, do not look at relationships as being failed because they didn't work out.
That's right.
Sometimes it's the very thing that you need in order for you to heal, because I truly believe that even though we're doing our own work individually, but just by having contact with someone, it triggers us. Trigger is not always a bad thing. It's a reminder that we need to go deeper and nurture ourselves and work on ourselves and to be able to heal.
Yeah.
Okay. So
you know what's so great about that, Sharon? Sorry. And what I love about that, I think that ties into what we're talking about with the social media trends, because what I think about when I listen to people talk, we also buy into concepts about relationships. So one thing I hear women say a lot is, I lost my investment. I invested in this. But I'm like, if you're investing in yourself, every relationship that doesn't work out, hopefully you're learning something. You're learning what doesn't work for you. You're learning what works for you. Hopefully you're paying enough attention to yourself to learn what you're doing that's not helpful or healthy. And you take all of that forward. So how is that a loss of an investment?
That's
I
right.
think that is the very essence of learning. Is we, like, as a therapist, I'm always telling people you're unlearning and you're learning as you go. And that's how we move into the healthy place.
That's good. That's good. And Justine Hilliard, Lady Justine Hilliard says, say that, sister girl. She says, say that, sister girl. You are right. And I see you tagging people as well, Lady Justine. Thank you so much for your comment. So answer this, guys. Do you feel like you should be assertive in saying what you want when it comes to dating? Or do you feel like you should just kind of lay back and be like, I know you can tell if I like you or not, or I don't know. I don't know what the answer is.
I know with me, I'm direct. I'm pretty direct.
So you would ask somebody out on a date?
No, I'm not saying I would necessarily ask somebody out on a date, but I'm trying to shift things in terms of, I find we're taught sometimes to be passive in terms of, he picks the place, he does that stuff. And like, I want to be asked out, but where I'm direct is, one, I bring up the things that are of value to me very early. Right. So I'm like, if you're not saved, sanctified, Holy Ghost filled, water baptized, you're not even an option. Because I've dated outside the kingdom before. And the Lord, I feel like if the Lord were petty, like I can be sometimes, he'd be like, see that? Like, what did I tell you?
Look what you done.
So like, I bring some of the stuff that are deal breakers up for me pretty early, because what I found was when I didn't bring them up early enough, I was battling between my feelings for them and my values. And if I bring it up early enough, I can say, this is not a good fit, when my feelings aren't going to try to tempt me to do something that's not good for me. Now, I say that, but I need to mention, I'm 49. I didn't learn that in my 20s. I didn't even learn that in my 30s. Like, it took me some time. I was probably in my late 30s when I started to get some of that understanding. So I'm not saying that this is like, I was born with this. What this is, years of going, you got to figure this thing out.
Right.
And I'm single, so I've had to continue to look at it as I age, because I've had more time to look at it. So that now I find is what's helpful, because I'm going to guard my heart, but I'm also guarding their heart. The last person I dated, we didn't date very long, but some of the deal breakers came up later. And so when I was like, okay, then this isn't going to work, it was harder on him. Now I could have pretended and strung it along because it was nice to have the company, and it was nice to get, those cute text messages and have somebody to go for a walk with and dates. But come on now. And then what?
Right.
So now I'm learning to operate with wisdom.
What is the dating for? Is it, because to me, the dating would lead to something. If it's not leading to anything, then that's just a complete waste of time, because I don't need a bunch of extra buddies in my life right now. I already have friends. I don't need a bunch of male buddies.
But I think even that's something to vet. How does one understand dating? Is dating leading to something? Is dating how we get to know each other? Is dating just something to do because right now I can do it with you? Like, even having that understanding, because I think this is one of the reasons we end up getting hurt in relationships. We don't ask poignant questions early on. And I know people think, some of my friends think like, you're a tough cookie, but I'm like, but guess what? My heart has not been broken based on my own misuse of my heart. I'll take responsibility where I created my own heartbreak because I didn't do certain things. Right. So now I'm just like, no, sift through this stuff early.
Okay. And people sometimes, I'm sure, are very upfront and honest. So there are some people that are willing to tell you, I'm doing this and I'm doing that. And then at that point, you can make your own informed decision. So it's not like everybody's like trying to get you or down to download, hiding behind your back and doing some dirty stuff on you or anything like that. there are some people that are very upright in their communication and saying, I'm not interested in this, whatever this is, fill in your own blank.
Or I am interested in this. And, and along with that is for individuals to be honest, with themselves, because people can be
Yes.
upfront and sometimes it can be this, I'm not going to say false belief. Sometimes it really can be, you generally feel like you can be acceptance of that. But somewhere down the line, whether it is in your values and your principles, or just you just figure out that's not your cup of tea. But I will say, once you know, and this is for both parties, that something is not your cup of tea, you need to be able to verbalize that to the person as soon as you recognize that. Because again, it may not be day one, may not be day two, but whenever it is, do not allow it to linger on, because it's a disservice to yourself and to the person. And we're talking about souls here as well, and guarding our heart. It's our heart and our soul. So, it's definitely about looking at things, or looking at things early and then looking at things different, because experience will allow you to do that.
Well, there
So
you
well
have
said, Sharon.
it. Huh?
I was just saying, so well said. I love what
Yeah,
she said.
I love everything that both of you said. So I
Yeah.
think it's absolutely beautiful, because a lot of people, even if they just encounter and experience you all in the dating world, they would be able to benefit and prevent some kind of pitfalls that could happen in life. So thank you both for sharing. All right, y'all, listen, I see you, Shirley Murphy, Madam Shirley Murphy. She's always over some major projects globally, and just want to welcome you to the Kim Jacobs Show. All right, all right. Next, let's go ahead and talk from today's topic of having our Freestyle Friday experts here. And we have Natasha Halliday. Take it away and tell us what you'd like to talk to us about today.
So today, because again, May is Mental Health Month. So today I wanted to talk a little bit about burnout. So I do public speaking. I talk about mental health resilience. Burnout's one of them. And I was a healthcare worker in hospitals. I worked in 5 hospitals over 21 years. So
Okay.
I have been acquainted with burnout. And even outside of that, I spent some time with burnout. And I like to dialogue with people about it, because we're often already part way into it and not necessarily aware of it. So burnout, a lot of people think, is being tired. Yes, being tired is part of it. But when you think about, to really understand burnout, this is kind of the way that, because people are like, how do you get burnt out? Well, you often are tired, fatigued, stressed, and you keep going.
Right.
So I want people to think about burnout like like a repetitive strain injury that's an emotional, mental repetitive strain injury versus a physical one. Because like repetitive strain injuries are, if you think about an athlete, they might continue to play even though they know they have a sprained
That's
ankle
right.
or something like that, right? So sometimes we know there's damage and we continue doing the thing at the level that created the damage, or will not allow the damage to heal, right? Or allow the injury to heal. So when we think about that in our emotional state, in our mental state, a lot of people are experiencing this in the workplace or in life in general. We've come out of the pandemic, but we live very saturated lives, and by that I mean, a lot of people are working a full-time and a part-time, or a full-time and they've got a side hustle, and they're juggling family and maybe an ill parent or an ill child, or like there's so many things that we're doing that it weighs us down. And how often do people say things like, I don't have the time to be sick? How do you not have the time to be sick? Nobody would book the time. Nobody's going, okay, I'm going to put my flu on June 5th, nobody would schedule it. But we say those things as a way to illustrate
That's right.
the rate we're going, we can't slow down.
Mhm.
But a lot of us are living at rates that aren't sustainable.
Hmm.
And so we have to recognize something's going to eventually give. And a lot of the times as it starts, we don't see it. So we might notice that, we're less enthusiastic about going to work, or maybe we're more cynical about work, and we might just take that as about the work. But it might be a little hint that you're starting to tap out. You're starting to step away. You're losing the enjoyment, right? People who, um, might think they're a bit jaded and just again go, it's because of the work. But a lot of people love the jobs they did at some point.
Mhm.
Where that change was maybe when you work a lot of overtime, or I always joke about shift workers. I'm like, sometimes shift workers feel like we don't even have the time to go to the washroom, right? Um, and it's go, 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 and there's not a lot of rest. And when we look at taking rest, we often go, okay, then I need a nap. I need to get more sleep at night. We might notice our sleep is different, but rest is also a mental, emotional, spiritual thing. It's not just a physical thing. So part of the reasons we burn out is because our minds aren't resting. I know so many people tell me the reason they have trouble sleeping is because their minds don't stop. And I say, think about like when you have a computer running programs, you can't shut it down. If you tell the computer to shut down, it will say, do you want me to shut down despite the fact that Word has this going, that this program has this going? Now we can do a forced shutdown in a computer, but most of us don't know how to do that in real life. And so we struggle to slow down enough to sleep. It takes some people a while to fall asleep, right? Always having work consume you where you're thinking about it outside of work might be another sign that it's burning you out, right? It's just kind of taking over your life. Maybe you're getting sick more, you're late more for work might be showing you that you're burnt out. You're detaching from relationships. So one of the things that people will often do is where they feel they have to be and what they have to put their energy into, they focus on that and then other things start to slide. But what's fascinating about that is if I'm like, okay, I got to, keep working and I'm not going to go out as much because I got to I don't have as much energy and I need that for work. We may not realize that those social interactions are part of what fills our cup, that actually fuels us for work because we're sometimes too literal. I'm tired. If I'm not at work, I need to be sleeping and resting. Or what about doing some things outside of that setting that bring you joy? Right? We unintentionally step away from those things that fill our cup. So we really want to be aware of, are we finding we're getting maybe more anxious about work? Are we experiencing more imposter syndrome? That could be a sign that we're burning out. Are we neglecting our own personal needs? That might be a sign that we're starting to burn out. Maybe we're feeling hopeless or empty. And so there's all these things that start to, if we're paying attention, start to tell us something's shifted and we need to be aware of it. We need to do something as soon as we know. And one of the things I like to talk about, because when I like to talk to workers about burnout, but a lot of them will say, well, I can't control the workload. And so people are overextended. There's a demand for it. A lot of people get into helping this fields and then are completely spent. It's like they've poured everything out of their cup.
That's right.
But there's not enough staff. That happened in the pandemic. It's still happening. People left healthcare and did not come back. Some people retired early. Some people left because they didn't want to take the vaccine. You name it. There's all these reasons people left healthcare. People were stressed out because healthcare was one of the most demanding spots during the pandemic in terms of work. And so the workforce has not been replenished, but the work is still high in demand. So some people are overworked because the demand is so high, but the amount of supply isn't commensurate to the demand, right? And what ends up happening now is then those workers start to get burnt out, they start to get sick, and it makes it worse. So when people say to me, well, what can I do? Because I can't change the demand, I always tell people, all you can do is what's in your power.
That's it.
I encourage people to speak up because if 20 staff are stressed out and feeling burnt out and one speaks up, they look like the troublemaker. They look like the complainer. So if we come with a united front of no, we're all going to say that this is too much, perhaps an employer will then have more onus to do more.
That's right.
I encourage people to think about our thoughts are so much a part of how we feel. So what's happening in your thinking? Are you so consumed with not what's not working, you're losing sight of what stuff that's still positive?
Right.
And so one of the ways I encourage people to pay attention to your thinking, but also think about what's feeding those types of thoughts. I know when I've worked in certain settings, I've had to step out of the lunchroom at times where I'm like, if I stay in this conversation, I'm going to leave in a worse mood.
That's why.
Because we think, it's natural. We want to vent. Oh, this happened, and so did this or whatever. But we don't necessarily realize is we're pouring in more and it's weighing us down. It's not giving us the levity we feel that it would from just being able to vent. So we have to be aware of, are we in conversations that actually exacerbate how we feel about what's not working, right? So looking at how that affects your mindset. Another thing, something that, each staff person in any setting, what can you do to build morale? And I tell a story, and it's so funny because I told this at a conference I was speaking at last week, and somebody laughed that for so long we had to like pause. She just laughed her head off. But I was working in this one hospital, and we decided on our lockers we would put, instead of just named plates, we just did it with paper, and it was envelopes so that you could insert notes. So it was like, thanks for staying an hour later. Oh, I really like that group that you ran, because we were working with mentally ill youth in that setting. And so that was one of the ways we were boosting morale, because we were offering feedback that if you didn't think of in the moment, you still had an opportunity to do.
Good.
So our boss also decided, I'm going to then also use it to leave notes, like, don't forget to do your timesheet, whatever. And my boss left a note and left out one word, and it changed the entire context. So there was a new staff that she needed to meet with, and she put a note in his locker that said, please me when you get a chance, instead of please see me when you get a chance. So leaving out the one word see. So he comes out with the note and he's like, is this in my job description?
Like, what in the world? You expected too much from me, woman.
Right? But I mean, the main part of the story is the notes that we had on our locker, and other things. Like, I worked in that setting during SARS, and we had this thing on the back door in our lunchroom. It's been SARS too long. When? And we would just write random things down, but it was trying to make each other laugh to boost morale, right? And that didn't cost anything. It didn't take a ton of time. It didn't change our workload, but if it gave us moments where we could laugh, and also remind us, wait a minute, I may not like all the things that are happening at work, but I like the people, that made it much more easy to be there. It took some of the load off, because the load's not just the real load, it's a mental load. So what helps decrease the mental load are some of these morale boosting activities that we could do. And it can be for a department, it could be company wide, but looking at how each of us as individuals can be suggesting things that we can implement to help with morale. Remembering your why is another big thing. Why am I doing this work? Right? Because we can lose sight of it and get focused on the parts that take us away from that. And that might be part of why we feel so negative. So I think it's really important to evaluate that. Make sure you use your breaks when you can. I know sometimes you can't. Take your vacations, take your times off. And the last thing that I'm going to offer as a suggestion about managing burnout, or even starting to recognize when you might be getting into burnout, is what I say, knowing your tell. So start to analyze yourself to see, are there things that are telling me that it's starting to go wrong? When I worked in that hospital, my tell was if I dreamt about work in any capacity, which only happened twice in 12 and a half years. But that was my tell. If I dreamt about work, that was my brain telling me work is saturating your thinking. You're now at home. You can't, I would go out with colleagues and we chat about work. I didn't worry about that. But when in random moments when I wasn't trying to think about work, like it was all entering my dreams, I was like, child, it's time to take a day off. I need to get some space. I need to do something. And so for me, that was my tell. But starting to check in with yourself, what might be a marker that I'm starting to feel burnt out, or that work is consuming me, which can be something that leads to burnout.
And that was so good.
Thank you. Oh, we can't hear you, Kim. Okay, she's talking, but I can't hear her.
Yeah, she must not be able to hear us.
Yeah, I don't know. But she did say her device, like, but she didn't cut out.
Mm-mm.
Well, Sharon, what do you think about burnout? Let's just keep going.
I know. Yeah, everything you said is point on. And, because like when it comes to burnout, that's one thing that I have a specialty is in too, and definitely in talking to people about. And I think it's one of those things too that people may not realize that even though you can't control the thing that's causing the burnout, but you do have control on in managing it, and that can be anywhere from, when you're able to, if you need to walk away for a minute. If you can walk away for 5 minutes, that's even better when things are very stressful. Because I too have worked, like in an emergency room too. And there have been times, it's like I loved it to death, but it's crazy, crazy busy, And so
Very
you
intense
really,
work.
especially as a healthcare worker, have to take on self-care and you taking care of yourself on your own, because I just look at it as a system, because businesses, they need someone to be there, and so, but they can't look at their need and your need too.
Right.
So,
Well, sometimes the two just don't meet. Like
mm-mm,
they can try to do that, but there's some things that don't like sync up. They don't synchronize. So we have to do what we can despite that.
That's
yeah,
right. Well, those were outstanding points, and especially with you, like you said, it
Thank you.
being Mental Health Awareness Month. These were some great tips for us to be able to gain control of our own mental thought process. Like you're saying, forcing the shutdown button on a computer, that's an object. Imagine just shutting down the forcing the shutdown of some of the thoughts that we have, some of the things that are causing us to really entertain things that we don't need to even be considering. And if we know that it's entering our thought process, it would be beautiful to say, I'm not going to entertain that, because that is not anything that God would have me embrace in my life. And I think we personally have a choice as to whether we accept or reject something in life, especially if it's within our control or within our wheelhouse, to be able to say, enough is enough. Get thee behind me. Get thee behind
Right.
me. I'm not entertaining this, because it does not serve me or whoever I'm dealing with any good.
that is so
Yep.
true. I like to call it override. You're overriding those thoughts, you overriding those behavior, and that takes action. And for you to be intentional or how you think about those things. And I know sometimes some people may think, well, like how many times do I need to do this? You have to do it as many times as it takes until you don't have to override it anymore.
Right.
And we're on the same page. And so anybody in the studio audience, I can't see all the comments. So Mackenzie, if there is a comment, feel free to put it on the screen. She's backstage helping us. So thank you so much for those wonderful tips. And let people know too how they can stay connected with you.
So my social media, it's Natasha A Halliday, NatashaHalliday. So I'm on LinkedIn, Instagram, YouTube, even though there's probably only like 4 videos on YouTube, and Facebook. I knew I had another one with Natasha A Halliday. So that's where you can find me. Best 2 places to reach out to me though are Instagram and LinkedIn.
Instagram and LinkedIn. And I know I have
Yeah.
on my phone here all of your contact information. I'll see if I can pull one of them. And we've already put it in the comments section also, everyone. But here we go. You have to have some special skills to be able to transition from computer, get on your phone, and still find all this behind the scenes stuff. So God has gifted me in this area, right?
There you go. And Kim, if you don't mind mentioning, I'm actually going live 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time today, because May is Mental Health Month, and the theme, which I talked about last Freestyle Friday, the theme for Mental Health Week was compassion. I'm going to speak with another therapist today, and we're going to unpack mental health and compassion and how integral compassion needs to be as part of understanding, looking at, and navigating and addressing mental health. So I'll be live 2 p.m. on Facebook today. But that's Natasha Halliday, because that's my personal page I'm going live from. I don't think I know how to do both yet. I gotta learn from the pros like you. Um, but I'll be having a discussion with another professional, Lydia Rajpat, who does this similar work that I do, and we're going to have a really great discussion on mental health and compassion.
Excellent. I think that's going to be a beautiful segment, especially integral. Like you said, just integral to be able to have integrity when you're dealing with people with compassion and keeping it from the perspective of what are we required to do? Don't worry about so much about what other people are going to do on the receiving end. Only be accountable for what God requires and holds us accountable to do, which is to do the right thing by other people and do unto others as we would have them do unto us. Now, that doesn't mean that they're always going to do unto us that way, but still, we should be striving to be peacemakers in every situation. Anyway, this is really good, Natasha. Make sure you all check out Natasha A. Halliday, but you're going to go to her Natasha Halliday Facebook page at 2:00 p.m. today to hear her and another therapist that talk about actual compassion and how to do that for Mental Health Awareness Month. All right, let's take it away, Sharon D. Brown. Let me see if I can get you over here and get you going. Wait a minute. You can't imagine over here what I'm over here doing. I'm doing the most, but it's all good. There we go. Take it away, Sharon.
Well, thank you, thank you, thank you. Yeah, so I am Sharon D. Brown, and I'm the founder of Self-Care U Academy. And that's pretty much where I help, entrepreneurs and business owners and leaders use self-care to be successful in life 10 times over. Because the more that you take care of yourself in every aspect, the more successful you'll be in your life and in your business. So what I wanted to focus on today is to pretty much talk about the repetition of doing something, especially doing something new. When you want to either like have a new habit, or you have a task or project, or whatever that new thing is that you want to change. A lot of times we talk about it takes 21 days to change a behavior. While that is true, but to go a little deeper inside of that, you kind of need to know why and what to do. And even when it comes to the 21 days, I would say it really takes more than that. It really takes like 90 days to be solid in that new behavior. Because if you ever notice that when you start doing something, you may skip a day and then you may not do it. And then sometimes you end up giving up. But that is because it's not a part of you yet. And that's why it's so important for you to be able to do something again and again and again. And for people who play sports or who play an instrument, they are more aware of this because you got to practice. You got to practice. And it reminds me when I was, in high school, I ran track. And in high school, I did really well the years that I practiced. But my senior year, I didn't practice as much. And that was only because I had other things going on when I wasn't able to participate. But when I look at my performance was superb when I practiced, but it was subpar when I didn't. So when it comes to you, like when you're whatever that thing is, it's a new task. It could be a new job. It could be a new hobby. Whatever it is, you have to do it over and over again. And when I say that you do it, you really become it. Like for instance, I'm an entrepreneur now. When I first came into this place, I didn't know nothing about no entrepreneur and still learning. And part of this probably is probably the reason that I'm learning because I'm talking to myself as well, But part of it too is, let's just say, like when it comes to being on video, like one of the reasons that I am good at this is, but still, I'm still learning to be better is because a few years ago, I knew it was something that I wanted to do, but then, really didn't. He's like, oh, well, I'm a little shy, so let me build this up. And so by me doing this over and over and over again, I became better. Like I say, of course, still improvement, but this is how you can become better at doing something. You do it anyway, but you do it and do it and do it and do it. So don't give up. The other point that I want to make, because this comes up when I'm talking to clients and when they may have some intrusive thoughts or trying to overcome something. And when it comes to the mind, the body, and the spirit, it all works together. And so what that means is that even when you want to do something and you even know your why, but if you're not actively doing it, it's like our subconscious is saying, oh, well, you don't want this?
Right.
So you have to overcome that. But the only way to overcome that is to be able, like for me, to be able to show up, to be able to do more videos. And so like whatever that thing is, the task, the habit is really important for you to do it again and again. And then also when it comes to repetition, I don't know who said it, but pretty much they say if you want to be an expert at anything, you need to have 10,000 hours. And I say 10,000 hours, 10,000 repetition. So one of the things that I tell my clients so that they can give themselves some grace, because sometimes they may not always understand why certain things continue to happen or why certain thoughts, or they're not able to overcome something, even though it could be the counseling and all this intricate things that happen in that. But when you really understand the mind, the body, and the spirit, and I always say it's kind of hard to completely verbalize because they work together, but it's the part of us that is doing as we are becoming the thing, not even the thing, but becoming the person, and to overcome the resistance. Because the other thing is that sometimes we'll have intrusive thoughts is like, oh, well, you're no good at doing this, but look at this. Like, for instance, one thing that I notice is that when I speak, and I'm trying to be more aware of it, it's like I smack sometimes. It's like, you know, and that is just an observation. And so it just means you're being intentional and paying attention to yourself to say, okay, how can I course correct that? It doesn't mean you're a bad person, but if you stop, that's the message that you are giving yourself. So this is where our action can play a part of us. So our internal sense of like keeping us safe will have a big resistance. It will pretty much flag it as a danger, like, oh, no, stop. You don't need to be doing this because you're uncomfortable. But the more you do it, the more you embody it. And then it helps you to have pretty much confidence, make you feel good about yourself. But it also helps build resilience because you are telling yourself that you can overcome something. And sometimes I think that's why sometimes we can give up on things in life at times. But if we're not constantly, intentionally training ourselves to even just stick with something, and I would say go beyond the 21 days, because the 90 days, you're going to really be fighting and you have to like have tasks and, just do all kind of things to stay on task, but also don't beat yourself up. I would just say, just do it again. But also with that, before I end, it's also important not just to do it every day, but to be able to breathe it, to be able to see it. It's like come up with affirmations or mantras or declarations of the thing that you want to achieve, and to be able to put some pictures up where you can see it, because we as humans, again, it's about retraining ourselves of who and what are we are becoming. So we need to be able to see it. We need to be able to feel it. We need to be able to stand in that power. But the only way to get there is to do it over and over again, so that this is kind of like the renewing of your mind, the renewing of your body, the renewing of your spirit, and the renewing of who you are. But it's to be able to embody it. If you're not doing it, you can think about it, you can learn about it, but the doing it allows you to embody it, to become it. And this is why repetition is so important for you. And it's a self-care act.
Wow. Drop the mic. Drop the mic. If you all do not,
That's so good, Sharon.
wasn't it? If you all don't apply these tips, I'm telling you, then shame on you. Because at the end of the day, these are tips that can be implemented immediately. You didn't have to pay for counseling to get them. You actually had them free as a gift to you right here on the Kim Jacobs Show. Sharon, how do people stay connected with you?
Yeah, pretty much the best way to stay connected to me is on Instagram. So that is I am Sharon D. Brown. Again, I am Sharon D. Brown on Instagram.
Okay. All right. So this has been an incredible session today, and I hope and pray that it is one that's going to help you have better balance in your own individual lives. And so I'm a big believer that every step matters, even if it's a baby step. Please take the baby steps and just do something every day towards everything that's been shared here by our experts here on Freestyle Friday. And I guess if I can't find any other button, I can definitely find this button about making sure that people contribute to the Kim. Contribute. No, that's a shame. Like, let me find out. I don't even have my glasses. I can just see the dollar sign somewhere on there. Listen, make sure that if the Kim Jacobs Show has helped you in any way, shape, or form, and you would like to partner with us, the way that you can do that is just by pouring into our ministry, into our broadcast by $Kimjacobsinc or paypal.me/Kimjacobsinc, or even through Venmo at the Kim Jacobs Show. And we thank all of those that have already been partnering with us. It's the way that we're able to keep this show going daily, Monday through Friday at 11 o'clock a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So thank you so much for being a part of bringing balance to the world, one household at a time. Any closing comment, Natasha?
I think my only closing comments is to check in with yourself so that you can see if things are getting to be too much.
Check in with yourself and see if things are beginning to be too much. That's great advice. And if so, do something about it. And if you already know it right now at 12:05, do something about it and come at 2 p.m. today and hear Natasha Halliday speak more about how to be compassionate to yourself and to others today at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Sharon, any closing comment?
Yeah, my closing comment is pretty much is stick with whatever it is that you're trying to do, but also give yourself grace when you're not able to do that.
You all are masterful. I'm so honored to have you as Freestyle Friday experts here on the Kim Jacobs Show. And thank you all in the studio audience for tuning in today. We love all of you all and ask God to continue to bless every aspect of your lives. All right. Thank you so much. And take it away, Mackenzie. And have a great day, everybody. A wonderful week. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you for tuning in to Mackenzie gonna take it away for us. Thank you for tuning in to today's episode of the Kim Jacobs Show and for being in the virtual studio audience. Your presence truly does make a difference, and I look forward to you bringing your friends and